Hello, this is Olga Jevtich. I am Miss Virginia Senior America 2003. This is Fashion Notes. You are here for a big treat. We have wonderful guests. We always do, as you know, all these years. We have wonderful local people doing fantastic job. Today we have as our guest, we are so lucky to find her. Actually, I did not know her, but one of my previous supposed to be guests, but she had to travel somewhere. She said, well, I have a great lady that I can suggest you call her, and she is wonderful. I'm so thankful to her that she recommended this Julie Bahun here, and she's here today to talk about her craft, jewelry. Of course, no girl has enough jewelry, because jewelry for different occasions, different style, different technique. So she's going to tell us all about her work, and her work is in many galleries. We are going to learn all about her. And she's a glassmaker, actually. This is how she likes to be called. She didn't know what to do with the glass, so she started, making jewelry. I think it's a good idea, because she was making so much glass pieces, and then what to do with it, so she has it to incorporate in something. So she decided to make jewelry. Not just jewelry, she made the chains and all these, thing that goes together. So I told her, she has to be mechanic and not just designer to incorporate all her knowledge in these beautiful pieces. Julie, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for coming, and we are so grateful to be here like in Candyland with all these beautiful pieces she's going to tell us all about. Welcome, and tell us, first of all, when did you start, I'm sure, during growing up, you were talented doing this and that, putting together some pieces, and then later on, of course, you had so many pieces you didn't know what to do with, and then, she started, exhibiting. That's why I said it's important to go to the galleries in craft shows, so you see these local people, what they're doing. How did you start it? Growing up, I'm sure you made, a little something, all these years, and then you decide, well, I like to do glass.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I've always had an affinity for glass. Originally, I was a stained glass artist, and I would make stained glass panels and boxes and lamps.
Oh, that's how you started.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
And then in one of my magazines, I saw an ad for a bead making kit. And so I bought it, and I taught myself back in 1994.
Wow, that has been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. It's been a long journey, and so mostly self-taught. I've taken a few classes over the years. Of course, when I began, it was before the internet.
Uh-huh.
So there wasn't a lot of information available. So I just bought the glass and worked with the torch and just started to play.
Is it, when you, with the glass, I don't know how, when you make the glass, I'm sure, that you make some mistake. And do sometimes mistake, turn out to be masterpieces or not? Or can you redo it? How does this work?
Well, first of all, a mistake is not a mistake, it's a lesson. So I learn from everything. A lot of times the first attempt may not be successful, but I learned something from that first attempt. Glass comes to me colored and colored glass rods, and I build it on a wire mandrel, and that's how the hole gets in the bead. And so you layer glass, different colors, using different techniques, and use different tools for shaping.
Yeah, what kind of equipment do you have, the basic equipment do you have when you just started? Let's say started, how do you start it? Do you buy a glass like a sheet, or I don't know, in what form does the glass come?
Well, I really regret that I didn't bring the glass rods with me, but they come in 13-inch rods. They're about the thickness of a pencil.
Rods. I see.
They're about the thickness of a pencil, but about 13 inches long. And so you basically...
And do they come in colors?
They come pre-colored. The color, you don't have to color it afterwards. It's all in the glass.
And so when you decide, you said, I would like to make, let's say, small beads or big, how do you do that?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to make a bead because it's a little challenging when you're melting glass in the flame and it flows. It has a flow to it.
And you have to make a hole too, you know, because you can use it as jewelry. You have to, you know, put through something.
Right. The hole comes from a wire mandrel that you build the glass bead on. So it's built on a wire. The wire becomes the hole. When it cools down, you pull the wire out.
I see.
And that's how the hole
What
gets
kind
in.
of wires are you using?
It's a stainless steel rod actually used for welding, and I get it from the welding supplies. And so the glass just goes on. The first, it has to have a bead release or separator on top of the mandrel, so the glass doesn't stick. And then you just build right on top of that.
I'm sure you have to wear probably protective glasses working with glass.
The equipment that I use is a torch. I use a Nortel minor torch.
Torch.
And it's attached to my table. And then I have...
So the temperature of the torch must be extremely high.
The temperature's over 1800 degrees.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is it hot?
It is hot, yeah. So sometimes the glass will
That's
pop.
scary.
It is. It can be. I mean, I have like little
burnt.
Yeah, from the glass popping.
But when you see the finished project, you say, "Oh, yes, I did something wonderful." That you don't mind all these burns that you have on your head.
And when I build the bead, then it goes into my kiln to slow cool. Because if glass cools too quickly, it'll crack. So it has to go into a kiln. And then when you open the kiln, after it's cooled down, it's...
And how long does it take usually to you know, to cool?
For my kiln, usually about 6 hours. But every time I open the kiln, it's kind of like Christmas.
Oh, I see. So
I love it. It's my favorite part.
Do they change the shape while they are cooling off or not?
The shape is all done in the torch.
Oh, I see. And then when you have all the spread beads that you already made, then I said, well, now what do I do with it?
Well, that's the thing. When I first started making jewelry, it started with my bug bracelet.
This is your first piece?
This is the very first thing I made, probably like 15 years ago.
Oh.
And so I had learned to make these little bugs, and I didn't know what to do with them, so I made a little bracelet, and I started wearing it. And then a neighbor saw it and said, oh, I want one.
Where did you buy it?
Where did you get that? So, yeah. So that was the first item that I made.
Oh, this is the glass.
Yeah.
And it was the glass that was, wow. And how do you do these little dots here, for example? How do you do that?
You just work off the tip of your rod and you just do a tiny little touch of glass.
But they are so evenly done, so you really have to be,
That's just practice.
You know, you have to be so precise, you know, the way how you put this together. Do you put, for example, you have all these beads in front of you, and I said, well, you know, I'm going to make drawing, and then, you know, put all this together, or you just start doing it, and then, you know, whatever comes.
Sometimes
you hand, you know, just you know, lead you to make something beautiful.
Sometimes it starts with a drawing. Sometimes it starts with a concept, like maybe a color family, like a monochromatic, like my Shades of Gray necklace. My Shades of Gray necklace was a monochromatic concept that I wanted to have texture and shape. And so every bead in that necklace is different. I made sure that to have
but they have to be similar size also. They have to be similar size,
but different shapes and different textures, yeah. Some beads, like I do dream beads, and I have a necklace here that I had a concept in my mind. The concept was ombre, and so I wanted to have a color fade in the necklace, so each bead would be a different color, but the color would fade across the necklace or the bracelet. So that was a concept. Sometimes I'll have, when I clean my beads, I just put them in plastic cups, and I'll have 2 or 3 cups sitting on my table. And sometimes I'll look at them and I'll go, that'll work, those will match. And that's how my pink berry necklace over there came together. It was just cups sitting together with beads that kind of went together.
So how do you store them, all the beads? You know, I mean, you probably have a studio in
They
your
are
house.
everywhere in my
you
house.
know.
They are everywhere.
And so you have to see it, so probably see-through containers, so you can, you know, see around. You don't know, you know, what to do, and then decide. Oh, and then you know, she just told me, she dreamt about, you know, how to do some pieces, which is interesting. And she did it. You know, did you get up at night and said, well, now I just dreamt I have to do it before I forgot?
Yep, that's exactly what I do.
Really?
And then, and sometimes I have, like, there'll be a show coming up, or there'll be, you know, a jury for an exhibit, and then I'll try to rise to that occasion and build something to go into that show, and that's what. Oops.
I see. Okay.
And that's what this is. This is my, this juried into an exhibit with the International Glass Bead Society. The exhibit was called Hands of the Maker. And so my pendants were selected to go into the show, and they traveled around the country for a year. So
oh, this is her pendant.
This is my posy pendant.
Okay, they all come in different, if you bring it closer to the shoulder, each piece, you know. Okay, so this is, they're all different,
They're all different,
They're
yeah.
all different, a different design, but they have the same function.
Yes, so I have a Halloween one and a Christmas one, and then a strawberry pot. And
What about the necklaces? Show us the necklaces. For example, what kind of beads are those? You know, they're all similar color, same color just about.
I love monochromatic. I love gray and ivory and black. I just love those colors, and you can wear it with anything. This necklace was in a magazine called Artisan Jewelry Times, and I did a tutorial on it, and I demonstrated how to make not only the beads but also the chain. And so I have that in a magazine. This next necklace is my shorty necklace.
Yeah.
It was also in Artisan Jewelry Times, and I did a tutorial on how to do that as well. And so if you go around the table, I have my seashells and sun and solar flares.
Those are pendants, I understand.
These are going to be pendants. They're not wire wrapped. This one has a bail. But the solar flares, my daughter was having a really hard time with migraines, and there were a lot of solar flares in the atmosphere. So I was just sitting at my torch thinking about that. So this is how this pendant came about.
Oh, this is so interesting.
Yeah, that's how that came about. Sometimes I interpret nature, and so this was trying to make a shell look just like a shell. So
a shell, I see. So this, you know, look at this turtle.
Starfish.
Yes,
my interpretation of starfish.
I see.
Yep, I have several varieties of those.
I see. So you have a different kilns, you know, different, you know, in your studio, or this is one that does everything? Because, you know, some of them do different things.
I just have one kiln, and it's set just for my bead making. It has a little door that flips open, and I put
your
straight
kiln
into
is
it.
also only for cooling, but there are all the kiln that are, you know, people put it there, you know, on higher temperature.
They can do fusing and slumping, which I don't do. I did it, and I just I didn't catch on to that. So I stuck with beads. I'm pretty happy with what I do.
Well, Julie was featured in many magazines, and shows them the picture of the major magazine that her work has been featured.
Well, first of all, this is the cover of the summer catalog at Lorton at the Workhouse Arts Center. I'm a teacher there, and so I teach beginning to intermediate classes. So that's the...
And who are your students? Are there anybody there, or just, you know, young people, or?
All ages, really. I've had a 15-year-old up to people in their 60s and 70s.
Oh.
All ages enjoy it. So I teach at Lorton.
Matter of fact, she has a class today.
I have a class
tonight.
tonight.
She has to go there to teach people how to do it.
Yeah.
And what did they start with? You know, with the simple technique they have. You know, and then I'm sure later on, if they're interested, they can, you know, go further. So how do you teach them? You know, because you have to have all this equipment there. Do you still have it? Everything there?
At Lorton, they have a studio. It has 10 torches in it, and so it has several kilns. and they have all the tools necessary. And so I just basically show up. It's a really nice studio. So I work there, and I teach the students basically the first thing is safety, because there's a lot of safety concerns when you're doing this. And then we work.
You don't play with fire.
Don't yes, play with fire, but you have to be careful. So the first thing I teach them is a basic small spacer bead, like the one I'm wearing, the little earring, and then they'll move up to and they'll progress to other projects.
And how long are the the classes? Not I don't mean one class. The course. Is it a course that like a 2-3 months, whatever? It's
a 7-week 7-week class that runs for a semester, and then there'll be a new semester. So we just finished up. Today is the finishing of the summer semester.
And so do they have an exhibit after they finish course? I'm sure they're going to have some kind of graduation.
Well, what I do for my class is my beginning classes. We do what's called a flame off. So in class 6, they have to make beads that have to rise up to certain occasions, being best bead, ugliest bead, most best color combination, best technique, best bead overall.
Oh, that's good.
And today is the last day of class, so I'll be judging their beads, and I have prizes for them. So,
I see. That's interesting. Interesting. So as you can see, what she's doing. Pendants and if somebody, for example, will ask you, can you do some custom work? Does anybody ask for example, you would like these beads, but this style, for example, and do you do that?
Yes and no, because I think my work is my own vision, and so I may interpret what you ask me to do, and so sometimes that doesn't match up because everybody has their own vision. So I do custom work, but usually it's based off of what I'm already making.
Yeah, absolutely, I understand that. That you some incorporate the beads the way how you see it. Because otherwise, I don't think maybe people do not have a vision in your mind. I'm sure it does not look good, and it's good to tell them. I think it's better, this way, not your way.
Yeah, and also too, you have to understand the principles of glass and how it functions. And even with the silver work, you have to understand how when you construct a piece of jewelry, that it will stay together and it'll be comfortable to wear.
And who usually buys your jewelry? What, like younger people, older people, or who is your customer?
I have kind of a wide range. The kids like my little friendship bracelets, and I make a lot of friendship bracelets. Oh. And so I make those for kids, but I wear it. I guess I think I'm a kid. I don't know. So I make those, and then just all ages, all ranges. Usually they have a love of glass. And they look for that in the craft shows. I
usually ask all my art, people, how do you take care of them, and also how do you store it? This is important because, I don't think I have a right technique to store. I store my things in plastic bag, but I don't think it's a really good idea, is it?
Yeah, well, and when I was unpacking, everything was coming out of a plastic bag. Oh. The one thing
is it good to store it?
I store all of it in plastic because plastic is kind of like a buffer, an insulator. It keeps it from getting tangled or banging together. It is glass, so you don't want it to chip or get broken. So I always put it in a plastic bag. But the plastic bag also preserves the silver. It keeps it from tarnishing.
Oh, I see.
And so I always keep my silver in plastic. Everything's in plastic, and nothing gets tangled. So, there's nothing worse than having like 10 necklaces and you're trying to unweave them.
Yeah.
I don't have that. I don't do that. I just put them all in plastic bags.
So individual pieces, they are protected.
They're always protected.
So if it's a glass chipped, can this be repaired or not?
No, it can't be chipped. But my principle is, if you have a piece of jewelry and you've broken it while you're wearing it, I'm just happy you're wearing it. That makes my day. So if you have a bracelet, and say these bug bracelets, every once in a while one will come back, the wire that it's strung on will break. Well, it takes about 2 to 3 years for that wire to stretch enough to break. And so it's like good advertising for me.
So that means the person was really wearing it.
You're really wearing it, and you're advertising for me. I will restring that bracelet, absolutely. Just send me the parts.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, just means you're wearing it.
But those are pendants. So do you have a, you know, people can choose, you know, something, you know, to put the pendants on, or can be also the pin or not?
Yeah, it depends on how you want to wear it. I sell things that aren't.
Do you use chain or wires? What do people prefer?
Usually, the bail, the part that it's hung from, is usually silver finding, like this one, and then I hang it on a chain. But I have some things that are finished and some things that aren't finished, because I also do the Greater Washington Bead Bazaar, and so that's a trade show where people buy unfinished pieces. They just want your beads. So
absolutely.
So there are some unfinished pieces on here because I do a wide variety of things. I mean, I teach at Lorton, so I'll have beads that are loose that I'll take to class to show for demonstration, or I'll do the bead trade shows, or I'll do a hot glass festival in Stanton. So those are unfinished pieces, but also, it's good to have finished pieces so people can see what to do with your beads. So I have a little of both.
Well,
and I'm also in 2 galleries, so I need finished pieces for that.
Tell us in what gallery we can see your stuff.
I am currently in Arts in the Village Gallery in Leesburg.
In Leesburg.
In Leesburg, and then I just juried into Gateway Gallery, which is in Round Hill.
Oh, I see. Well, that's wonderful. So as I said, you have to patronize galleries and go to craft show to see what our people from our area doing. They're doing wonderful, wonderful things, and you just have to find them. And which is not difficult, you know, to find, especially in the fall. There are lots of craft shows.
Yeah.
And before the holidays, so you should take the opportunity to go and see these artists, what they are doing. So what is your next project? You know, what you are, you know, you're doing jewelry. You did a stained glass, and then you moved to jewelry. And I'm sure all artists have something else in mind to do next.
I like to collaborate with other artists. I did a candlestick project with a woman in my gallery in Leesburg, and she is a coppersmith, so she forged some copper candlesticks for me, and I made the beads to go onto the candlestick. So I do things like that.
This is like a home decor.
That was a home decor.
Home decor.
Most recently, I've been working on some beaded pens. You can get beadable products, and so I've been designing beads to go on those. Mostly jewelry and silver, though. I really enjoy working with silver, and I also teach silversmithing at Lorton as well.
Oh, well, how do you work with silver? Is it a soft metal, or you have to do something to make forms?
The silver that I use is fine silver wire, and it's fusible, meaning that you don't have to use solder or flux. You don't have to pickle it, and you don't have that extra process of cleaning it. So you basically start with a spool of wire, and then you roll off some circles, like jump rings, and then you use a torch. It's a jewelry torch, but it looks kind of like a creme brulee torch. And it's very simple.
Really?
This is very simple. And so you just
don't need it.
So then you just use the heat to melt the ends, and they join together, and that's how this was made. It's just you make a circle, and then you hit it with a torch, and it fuses. It starts to flow when it's hot, and it joins.
When do you like to work usually? During the early morning, when it's quiet, you have a little music, or you like to work at night, or where do you prefer to work?
I prefer mornings. I'm a morning person.
Morning person.
I do need music. I need to have company, because when you're an artist, you tend to work alone. So it's nice to have
soft music.
Music going, even just the radio, listening to, just listening to the radio.
So the next is a home decor, as she said, that she's moving to, because all artists, they just get tired of, but they transfer the art to something else, which, I see that you are doing already. And as I said, Julie was featured in lots of jewelry magazines, and a picture of her work, which is quite a bit of honor to be in this magazine because they pick, you know, the best possible, you know, artist to, you know, feature in the magazines. And, you know, we are very happy that she, you know, came today and show us her beautiful work that was featured in, you know, lots of magazines. And this magazine is...
This is the International Glass Bead Society's yearly publication. It's the Art of Glass and Flame Working. So I was in this publication. And this is some pictures of my work. And you can see here I have these 2 items here. And then I was also in the Artisan Jewelry Times. I was in this publication twice.
Wow,
and so,
that is very impressive.
Yeah, and so one as featured artist, and so this just is the article that I was in. So this is the shorty necklace, and it's the tutorial for that.
Wow, yeah, this is such impressive. You know, about, you know, you're very impressive what you have here about your work.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I enjoy it.
Oh, I'm sure, you know, that you are enjoying it.
So
I'm sure it's wonderful.
Thank you.
As you can see, you know, what we have in our area, you cannot be wrong if you just go and meet all these artists. You know, they have street fairs, art fairs, craft shows, you know, especially, as I said before, in the fall. And also, you know, you can see our programs on YouTube. If you type Olga Jevtich Fashion Notes, and also I have my own channel too, so you can see some of our programs on YouTube, which is great, and you meet the artists, what they're doing in our area. I'm so fascinated, you know, with the, you know, people that do something with their hands, because this is the art that is unfortunately losing. Everything these days is made by machine. And in somebody doing something like that with the lust and love, and I think it's something to be admired, as I admiring, you know, the Julie's work, which absolutely is, you know, lovely, different, and also unique. It's one of a kind. If you wear one of her jewelry, you are the only person in the world that has this piece, and nobody else. So you feel so unique and so, you know, wonderful. And I really would love to thank Julie for, you know, coming today and showing us all her very pretty, you know, pieces of glass. And she's a glass artist. And as I said before, glass artist first and then jewelry designer second. And thank you very much for watching. This is Olga Jevtich reporting for Fashion Notes. And see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in.